Hello guys, and welcome to another cast here. This time it's going to be PvP featuring exioNCourage versus DeathEnD, who plays for Lag Gaming. It's a very good team on North America. So in the bottom left we're going to have exioNCourage in the orange, and in the top we're going to have DeathEnD in the red. And casting with me will be the Soul one. What's up, Soul?
Not much right now. Just some life and some StarCraft. Been having some good clan wars lately with a whole bunch of people. So you guys should try and check those out on our stream and follow us as a team if you want.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of clan wars do get streamed on the Twitch channel, and they are VODed there. But about this game, we're going to be having pylons going down for each player, as is very normal. So let's talk about the map a little bit. This is not in the ladder pool, although you will see it a lot in a variety of tournaments. It's called Atlantis Spaceship. GSL was the first tournament to implement it. And it's very different for all the different matchups. Like, when there's a Zerg playing, a lot of the maps sort of, it comes down to who can secure this gas base, the heavy gas base in the middle. And if a Zerg is able to secure that, and a lot of times you'll see the Terrans and Protoss trying to deny them that, to prevent them from getting far more hive tech units than any Zerg would be able to. And for PvT, again, it's different. But this time it's going to be a PvP, and the main thing I think is noteworthy is just how much space there is. Like, you look, there's all this space up here. There's the middle part with the watchtower that actually hardly sees anything, and then there's all this space down here as well. So one probe slips through and puts down a proxy pylon. It can absolutely change the face of the game.
In fact, odds are there's going to be many proxy pylons just because of the size and the open areas of this map that you can just hide almost anything you really wanted to. I would assume that if either player is going to be aggressive, there's going to be pylons all over the place.
Absolutely. Now the first little differentiation we see in the builds is that DeathEnD has gone for a 12 gateway, whereas Courage has gone for a 13 gateway. Both are completely fine. The 12 gateway is going to make you a little safer overall, and also will allow you to be more aggressive. However, the 13 gateway is going to let you get one probe up on your opponent, assuming they don't also go for a 13 gate.
So as we can see right now, we do have DeathEnD starting to grab his second gas, which could be a tech play, could be, just wants to play more defensive. It's not going to be shown just yet. We're going to have to wait and see what his tech of choice is going to be. My guess is that with that scouting of it, Courage himself will also grab his second gas. Then we'll see what happens from there.
Cybercore just finished up for Courage, and he's going to start chronoing out that warp gate. Second gas also close to completing. Still a probe scouting around here. And one little thing that DeathEnD was doing, although I didn't actually mention it, is you'll see his probe is in the orange, and that means he was forcing Courage to attack his probe. And if you already have a probe out on the map, you may as well force them to attack it, because that's going to mean, assuming they're scouting, which pretty much everyone does in PvP, they're going to have two probes that are not mining, whereas you're only going to have one. So it's a nice way to gain a small little edge there.
As of right now, we do not see any tech, but looks like actually DeathEnd's throwing down a robo facility right now, as well as with Courage throwing down the Twilight Council. So it looks like we're see two different techs out of both these players, which should lead for an interesting game.
Absolutely. I'm gonna, in this straight up Robo versus Blink style, there's a lot of times when the Blink player can come ahead, but in general, you're gonna want to give the advantage to the player who made a Robo, simply because Immortals are so good against Stalkers. And however, you are able to be more flexible and more, have a bit more movement going on with that Blink, and a lot of players will take that every time, even if they know they're going to be up against Immortals. So Chrono Boost just now going down on the Twilight Council as it finishes up. And back at home for DeathEnD, he's throwing down gateways 2 and 3. So he's not doing any super fast follow-up to this, and he is also making an Observer before an Immortal. So just playing very safe. He's also got 2 sentries, and Sentry before Stalker is always going to help you against a 4-gate, because those sentries are going to have a lot of time to gather up their energy, so they will have 2 force fields at the time of the rush, whereas the sentry you freshly warped in is only going to have 1.
Another thing of note is that DeathEnd's been using all his chrono boosts on that cybernetics core, which he just now has warp gate completed. It looks like he really wanted to get it done early just to play extra safe or possibly extra aggressive, which right now it looks like extra safe because there are no probes out on the field. There is no proxy pylons ready to be used. So really right now it's 3-gate Robo versus going to be 3-gate Blink.
Yeah. Going for that Blink and the Blink research before making the Robo, and upon you know, sort of, he didn't actually get to see the units of DeathEnd. Perhaps he was hoping they'd be sitting down there in the natural, but he can't just run up that ramp. He can get force fielded off, and you know, he just decided that he's going to need an observer to put on any sort of aggression. So we'll see where Courage goes with this. His Blink is just about finishing up, starting to chrono out that observer. And in the meantime, on the other side of things, DeathEnd with a little bit of a supply block, and this is actually a very annoying supply block, because when you look up at the top of your screen, you still see that you have 3 supply open, when in fact an Immortal takes 4. So while you think you may not be supply blocked, that Immortal is not building the whole time. It's a bit of a protoss problems, because we have so many high supply units.
That was just a short-term supply block, so it's not going to delay too much of anything here. So we do have 3-gate Robo versus 3-gate Robo now, but the advantage will go into Courage's build because he does have Blink, which is going to allow for a lot of micro and a lot of mobility on such a large map.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely going to be nice on this map, because if DeathEnd decides to move out, he's going to have so long to harass and poke at that army. But DeathEnd doing something interesting here. You see he's adding on the Robo Bay and another gateway, so it looks like he's going to be going up to a 1-base Colossus push. That Robo Bay is already about 70% done, so he's going to be able to start a Colossus very shortly, and Courage blinking into the main, and he's going to unpower this robotics. And while this is always a good move, this is especially effective against a player trying to go Colossus, because it's just going to delay that Colossus. And his observer does get picked off, so if he wants to do any more high ground blink-ins, he's going to need to remake that and send it all the way across this map.
And for anyone wondering, the reason we do know that it is going to be Colossus is that if it was a speed warp prism, it would have already been built much earlier. Like Gas would have been able to easily helped out getting it earlier down, since he's not going for that Colossus, instead of having to save his gas up to be able to build that Colossus. Yep. So we do have Courage just wandering around the map with his Blink Stalkers, poking in, trying to either stall out or just try and gauge what his opponent's doing here. And so far he has not scouted that Robo Bay, so he does not know what kind of build it's going to be. He does go up on that ramp just for a split second. We do actually see a small engagement there. He does lose a Stalker for free.
Yeah, not ideal. Normally with these engagements where you're just sort of blinking back your Stalkers as they get hurt, you're hoping that they will lose a unit and all your Stalkers will live. But of course that is very, very, very highly difficult to do. And now we see DeathEnd looking to push out here. This Colossus rallied right on top of his army, and he's just going to start to push out here, and he's going to be doing this push where Courage is actually taking a Nexus in the bottom right of the map. So if this does come down to a situation where DeathEnd thinks he's on 1 base, but he's actually mining on 2, that'll give him just an unspeakable advantage. Like, you have to take so many things into consideration when you think your opponent is on 1 base. And Courage actually deciding to completely forego this engagement, and he's going to pick off the Colossus. The Colossus goes down. Now this is absolutely game-changing. I mean, without that Colossus, you can't stomp over force fields. There's so many things you can't do without that. And Courage, he's already at the natural of DeathEnd. It looks like he's going to be thinking for a base race.
Yeah, at this point, there's nothing DeathEnd can really do. He has such an immobile army. Just Zealot, Sentries, and Immortals all have the exact same speed, so it's not like he's going to be able to catch up to the Blink Stalkers or deny this base race. So he's sort of forced into this position where he has to kill Courage's base and just destroy anything he can. And Courage, with his mobile army, he's going to be able to basically pick off this base, and if he wanted to, just retreat and pick away at some of the units that DeathEnd has.
Yeah, especially in a game with no income, there's always a huge advantage to Blink Stalkers, because while picking off a single Zealot or a single Stalker might not make that big of a difference when they can just reproduce them and maintain that Immortal count, if they're slowly losing units and not regaining them, eventually you're going to reach a point where your Stalkers can just completely mow over the opponent's army. So both players taking down the base. DeathEnd is actually taking down this base much faster, as he does have those 2 Immortals, and they just completely chew through buildings. But on the other hand, Courage has 2 Nexus out on the map already, building a second one, and he even has money for a third one.
We can actually see right now that DeathEnd is building a Nexus inside the main base of Courage, but that assimilator there does allow him for vision, so he does know where it is, so he's going to be able to go for the throat whenever he decides to.
Yeah, I definitely like this move by DeathEnD. I think this is a very smart thing to do, especially assuming that you have, considering that you have such a high sentry count, you're going to be able to force field this ramp and delay the opponent's army, whereas these nexus out here, they're completely exposed. They're very, very wide areas next to them. So in a base trade scenario, it's very, very nice to have a nexus inside the opponent's base.
As of right now, the main base of DeathEnD has been cleared out. There is nothing remaining there. So we do have Courage moving out across the map, blinking just to move that much faster. And looks like he's going to go right for that Nexus. He's going all the way over back to his where his main base was, I should say, just to see what he can do.
Yep, blinking as quickly as he can there, just trying to get across the map. Probe coming over, it is going to scout the additional Nexus of Courage, so DeathEnD knows what he has to do to win this game, but at the same time, splitting up his army like this is very, very dangerous, because if Courage catches either half of that army, he will destroy them with his high stalker count. I mean, 2 Immortals is kind of the number that makes it so Blink Stalkers can't really fight, but 1 Immortal is absolutely very manageable for Courage.
Yeah, that split up of the army I wouldn't exactly agree with. You know, keeping the sentries in that main is a smart move, but your power with the Immortals is the fact they can 3-shot Stalkers, but having only 1 will make it that much longer and that much more damage the Stalkers can do.
So DeathEnD here starting to work away on the bottom right nexus of Courage. Courage does find this additional pylon out on the map and picks it off, so all he has to do to win this game is to kill this nexus. But can he do it? There's a force field now on the ramp. However, he has an observer on the high ground and he blinks in, focusing down the Immortal. The Immortal will fall. This is looking very good for Courage, microing back against these Zealots. I'm not sure what DeathEnD can do. I mean, he needs to bring this army home ASAP, but instead he's going to try and kill this nexus. He thinks this is the only nexus left. But there's actually another pylon out on the map for Courage, and all the units fall. He's going to start to work away on this nexus. It looks like Courage is going to win this base trade against an army far more powerful than his own. And as well, another nexus being built for Courage. This nexus is falling. Courage wins. This is it.
There's the game.
GG. Wow, what an exciting PvP. I mean, you do not normally see that. When you see a powerful, powerful one-base army, Blink Stalkers, they have really a big trouble engaging it. I mean, if he had fought that straight up as it moved out, especially with the Colossus, he would have gotten absolutely rolled, but managed to catch the Colossus out in the open and then make it into a base trade scenario where he already had Nexus out on the map.
Was a great play from both players there. Great build orders too. You know, you don't see the one base Colossus all in too often, but it is a very strong build. Blink Obs also a very strong build, but just the decision from DeathEnD to split up his army the way he did not work out for him, and in the end it cost him the game.
Yeah, so that's going to be it, guys. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments or questions about the video, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and we will do our utmost to reply to them. And thanks for watching.